You are listening to the SDSU podcast presented by the East Village Times with your hosts Andre Hagberdian and Paul Garrison. Welcome, listeners, back to the SDSU podcast. I'm your host, Andre Hagberdian. We'll be joined shortly by my co-host, Paul Garrison, as we conduct our interview on this episode. And a little bit later, after the interview, we'll be joined by one of our newest writers for East Village Times, Johnny Olivieri, who has been helping us out on the football side, attending some practices in the spring and writing some feature articles for us. This episode is the fourth interview in our coaches series. So far, we have brought you interviews with associate head coach and special teams coordinator Zach Barton, running backs coach Darian Hagan, Sean Dillon. This one is quarterbacks coach Matt Johnson. Johnson was a former offensive coordinator at Kent State. He actually replaced Sean Lewis as the offensive coordinator when he left to go to Colorado, because Sean Lewis was also the offensive coordinator when he was the head coach at Kent State. And he obviously coached under Sean Lewis and played one season under Sean Lewis as the offensive coordinator at Bowling Green. Matt Johnson has a lot of experience with Coach Lou. Big reason why he's here, as you'll hear him talk about that. And really cool to get to know him. Obviously, the quarterback is the most important position on a football field. The Aztecs have four young quarterbacks vying to be the starter, and there's no more important position coach probably in the spring than Matt Johnson, trying to get these quarterbacks ready in this new offense to see who can elevate themselves as a starter by the time fall camp comes around. Let's get to the interview with Matt Johnson. Paul and I conducted the interview, and then afterwards I'll be back with Johnny to give you some of our takeaways. We want to welcome Matt Johnson, the quarterbacks coach for San Diego State, to the podcast. How are you doing today, Coach?
I'm doing well. Appreciate you guys having me. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate talking to some of the new folks and some of the new coaches on the staff that we haven't had a chance to talk to before. Of all the opportunities in the coaching world, you chose Sean Lewis. What is it about Coach Lewis that made you excited about this opportunity?
Well, me and Coach Lou got a little bit of a different relationship than everybody, being the fact that I played for him. So he was my position coach and coordinator in 2015 when it was my senior year at Bowling Green. We had a great relationship even the year prior when he was the receivers coach at Bowling Green. Just kind of carried on, has been a mentor for me. When I got done playing, there was a job opportunity that came available at Syracuse and jumped on that, got right into it, and have been working underneath him, throughout this whole journey. When he got the head coaching job at Kent, asked me to come with as a GA, didn't hesitate. And then, was fortunate enough to be promoted after 2 years to the running backs coach, and very loyal person. So, obviously, yeah, he's a really good ball coach. He's, really good at calling offensive plays and all that, but he's a better person. And if you're going to hitch your wagon to somebody that in this profession, I think loyalty is a big deal. And, with him and our relationship has been really good throughout the years. And I'm just looking forward to keeping that trajectory high while we're here at San Diego State.
When Coach Lewis left Kent State for Colorado, you got upgraded to offensive coordinator. Would you still be the offensive coordinator at Kent State without this opportunity?
To my knowledge, yes. Things might have been working behind the scenes that I don't know about, but no, I believe so. I was very thankful for that opportunity. Always wanted to be an offensive coordinator. Even when I was playing, I knew eventually when my time was done playing in this game, that I was gonna, want to become a coach and want to call plays. Like that's what I want to do. And last year gave me that opportunity, learned a ton, both good and bad, and am able to again just, keep that momentum rolling for my future, for my career. But it was a year where I was able to do a ton of self-assessment and learning about, not just being a position coach, but being in charge of an entire unit.
Who are some of your coaching influences, and what are the things that you've learned from them?
Well, I mean, obviously the biggest one is Lou. Like we talked about earlier, just playing for him and then and coaching for him. It's been really cool, the development that we've had since I was playing for him and where this offense has gone, and his philosophy in quarterback play and offensive play. Like, we were on essentially ground zero when we were together when I was playing for him, and now this thing is a whole new level, and it's been really cool to see it grow. Coach Babers was obviously a big influence on me playing for him. And then, when we were together at Syracuse for that year, uh, being the starting quarterback in 2015, myself and Coach Babers spent a lot of time together watching tape, but then being able to see the other side of the fence, coach to coach. Again, I was able to learn a ton, even though it was, essentially 7 months, but it was very beneficial for me because I was able to see exactly, from a player's perspective, the coaches come in and, hey, this is what we're doing. Well, when you're coach to coach, you get to see the why behind things. And, those two guys do a great job of explaining the why, and things make a lot more sense, and they're able to make a complex game very simple.
Now, not necessarily with these. I mean, the kind of the structure of this conversation is honestly less about the specifics about what's going on in your QB room presently, and more just about, who you are as a person, what philosophies you have, etc. When you think of, kind of the essentials that you would like to build into a college quarterback, what are some of those essentials, and what does a QB look like for you?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, it's kind of backwards in today's world of NIL and all this, but I'm a very relationship driven person. Um, I'm big on trust. I'm big on, having those one-on-one tough conversations with guys, because through those conversations, that's where growth happens. And being able to, look a young man in the eye and tell him the truth. And in that moment, he might not want to hear it, but that's what's gonna help him down the road. And I know that that's a little bit backwards sometimes in today's world of, well, I can be told what I want to hear for 100 grand somewhere else. It's just kind of the world that we're in right now. But there's, especially when you're a new staff, you're a new coach, you walk into a new room, and whether it's, Crum and Javance, who were here with the previous staff, or it's AJ and Danny, who are brand new to the program, everybody's starting at ground zero. So it's truly getting them to know me and my expectations and the standards that I set in the room, which are extremely high. I think, quarterback is the best position in all of sports. You're in control of 10 other guys. Everybody's looking at you as the leader. A lot of times you're the leader of the team, but first and foremost, you got to be the leader of yourself and the leader of the unit. So I hold those guys to a very high standard. And they're learning, right? Like we just got done with practice 4. We're still on ground zero right now. Like we're still, there's really, really good moments. There's really, really bad moments, but the thing that I've been impressed with all 4 of those guys so far is the communication that we have between each other. Again, whether it's good or bad, they make a bad play, they're not sulking. They're just trying to soak me for information, which is really good. They make a good play, they're understanding why they're making those plays now. So it's been really cool to see the growth, even from practice 1 to practice 4. Still a ton to get better at, but I'm liking the direction that we're heading in.
Tell me a little bit more about that communication, because obviously, we've gotten brief windows with the 45 minutes that we can be there and stuff like that. But the speed at which and the amount of reps is already very evident. And one of the, I guess, what the drawbacks from that, maybe just one of the results of that is, there's a lot of like very short little coaching things that you see going on, but you can't stop. You don't get to stop and say like, here,
Right.
do this with this,
Right.
Kyle, when we talked last Thursday, was talking about that he was given like 3 pages or something of like different things that he needed to bring to practice. I think it was 2. He was talking about 1 to 2. So how is that process of communication, considering not a ton of it gets to happen on the field?
Yep. So, I'm fortunate enough to be coaching in this style of offense for a long time now. So, guys will have their different buzzwords, but those buzzwords need to mean, like you said, they need to mean a whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Like it can't just be, 15 little things because like you said, you're not going to have time. Now, the big thing that I emphasize with the quarterbacks is, right now we're just doing racks of 5, racks of 5, racks of 5 as fast as we can go. They can't, freak out and forget what happened on play 1 and 2 because when their drive is done, we got to revisit that drive while the next guy is going. So not only are they got to stay locked in, they got to pay attention to the reps that are happening on the field so that they can learn from the quarterback that is in and seeing those pictures. But we also have to be able to talk within that 30 to 40 seconds, 45 seconds, where, hey, this happened on play 2, and I can't get a blank stare. Like we got to be able to remember pictures because, there's going to be times where we go on 12 play drives and something happened on play 2 that we got to make a correction on, and it can't be brand new for the guy to, I can't remember exactly what happened. That's not a good answer. So, you come up with a lot of buzzwords, you come up with a lot of sayings, but like those sayings and those buzzwords, you have to emphasize those in the meetings so that the guys understand, hey, when I'm saying this is the picture that I'm talking about. This is what I mean by, X, Y, Z. So the guys are getting used to, paying attention to the signals, but hearing my voice so that, if there is a split second where I need to give immediate feedback, it's happening, like you said, in 4 or 5 seconds, but then you got to clear it and you're on to the next play.
That's incredible. You explained it very, very well. And I fully grasp what you said. That seems hard. That's
There's
that's
a lot
amazing.
of coaching
That's
done
amazing.
on the tape.
Yeah.
Like, because the one thing is reps are invaluable. So the best way that you learn is by doing. So instead of only getting, 10 plays in a period, if we're able to rip 30 plays,
Yeah.
We might not get the immediate coaching on the field, but then we're getting 30 reps to
Absolutely.
watch with the guys, which is, invaluable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not like, you get to go in the huddle with them during the game. So it's kind of simulates that as well.
Correct.
So you talked about the QB being the best position in sports. If you talk to other QBs, which we have, they say that being a QB in Sean Lewis's system is even better than just being a QB regularly. So I mean, what does a QB do in Sean Lewis's system?
Everything. To make a very difficult answer short, everything. We got a phrase and a saying that you got the keys to the Cadillac, and it's your job to bring it back without any scratches. So, on any given play, the ball could go to 4 different people. He could keep it on a run play. He could, throw perimeter game. They have a ton of options, but within those options, because there's a ton of them, there's a lot of rules. They got to be able to apply those options and use them, in the proper situations. But I mean, it's a very quarterback friendly system. Guys that can move around are, again, we're able to cater the offense to them. Guys that are more pocket passers, we've had those guys in the past as well. so we can cater the offense to them. It's not a system where, hey, we're doing this and, you know, your skill set has to work around us. No, like, we recruited you, you know, we know what you can do. It's our job to make the system fit. So there's a lot of things that they're in charge of. You know, play to play. Very rarely are we just telling them, hey, on this play, just hand the ball off and you have nothing to worry about. You know, they're in charge of a ton. And again, that's what goes back to, you know, standards and the expectations of that room. They have to be high because, you know, they're holding the hopes and dreams of all of us.
You know, from your perspective, what do you think makes a position coach elite? Like, if we're sitting here in January, you know, after the 24 season, and we ask you, okay, what did you do in 2024 that made you an elite position coach? What would you say to that?
Well, I think the external answer, I think, is the production, right? I think everybody would look at the numbers, and if we throw for 4,000 yards, everybody will naturally say, well, the quarterback had to have a good year, right? If you throw for 1,500 yards, well, the quarterback had a bad year. But there's a lot of things that go into those numbers. So to be fixated on just production, I think, is wrong from a coach's standpoint. I think it's the consistent growth that you see throughout the season. You know, when we were at Kent, our first year there, our backup quarterback was just consistently getting better. And we saw it, we knew it. He was consistently getting better. But when we first got there, he couldn't make the throws that you need to make in this offense. He ended up gaining about 15 to 20 pounds. He got bigger, faster, and he earned the right to split time in the first game of the season. And then after the first game of the season, we made the decision that he was going to be the starter moving forward. And then we won the first ever bowl game in program history. So he barely played, but it was the consistent growth that he showed to us every single day that not everybody sees, right? Like you guys said, you guys are allowed to be there for 45 minutes. Well, there's a lot of things that go on that people don't see. And if the guys are able to show us as position coaches that consistent growth, that goes a long way, and it goes a lot further than, you know, just what the numbers are at the end of the day.
Every coach has a coaching philosophy. What would you say is yours?
I mean, like I said, like, to me, I'm a relationship coach. Like, you know, I think some people say that, you know, like, you know, I'm a player's coach, whatever that means. Like, to me, we're dealing with 18 to 23-year-old kids that they don't necessarily want to be told what to do, but they want to know that you're going to take them from point A to point B, right, and excel their career. Like, you know, the term coach, right? You go back to stagecoach, right? So like that was a vehicle that transported person A from one point to another, right? So it's my job as your coach to help you get to a place that you can't get to on your own. So to me, it's letting them know that I'm always going to be there for them, right? Like, and all this goes into being a player's coach, right? Like letting them know that I'm always going to be there for them. Like, it doesn't matter that, you know, it's 7:30 and you just got out of class and that's the only time that you can watch film. Okay, I'll make it work. You know, like I said before we jumped on here, right? Like my alarm goes off at 4:15. If a guy said he needed to meet at 6 a.m. before the lifts because that's the only time that he could do it, okay, sounds good. Like, letting them know that I'm always going to be there for them and I have their best interest in mind. And again, it's through tough love. Like, I'm going to tell you the truth. Like, I think that that's a huge piece of what I believe in is loyalty and telling the truth, because the truth on the long road, like, that's the stuff that you need to hear, not the stuff that you always want to hear, but that's the stuff that you need to hear.
Love it, Coach. If you were to, you know, recommend some books on coaching, books on leadership, or whatever it is that kind of has influenced you, what would be some of those titles?
Ooh, I'm not a big reader. I'm a big podcaster.
Okay, yeah, those are perfect.
So like anything with David Goggins, I think is awesome. Like, you know, now Obviously, like with the military background, is going to like the absolute extreme of everything, life
Right.
and death.
Right.
But there's a lot of things that he says that you can apply to just your daily discipline within life. Um, so like anything that I get a chance to hear him, and it's not just like he's done a bunch of different ones with different people, but his messages are always really, really good. um there's different athletes that I'll listen to and different coaches that I'll listen to, like if they show up on a podcast, I'll pop them on, listen to them. But like I think that you can draw you call it inspiration or
Mhm.
knowledge or whatever. I think you can draw it from a bunch of different people. So, um, like I said, like I'm not a big sit down read guy.
Yeah.
Uh, I know Coach Lou, Coach Barton, those guys have like 100 books in their office because they're big read guys. I'm more of a podcast guy myself.
Gotcha. So yeah, I didn't mean to like put you on the spot with the book one, but
No, yeah, you're
you
good.
know,
You're good.
it just it's just like if you're I guess what I'm trying to ask is like, where have you gotten the knowledge that has brought you to, this level of success, and like where is it that's like what are some of those resources that you gather to stay abreast of what other people are doing, just in the industry? I mean, where are those things that you
Yes.
pick up on?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with like the people that coached me in my career.
Mm,
So the first staff that recruited me is now at Wake Forest. Dave Clawson recruited me. The offensive coordinator there, his name is Warren Ruggiero. He is probably one of the biggest impacts on my life, just from like the fact that he recruited me, the fact that he believed in me, and then I got into coaching. He's probably a guy that I'll call once a month just to stay in touch and, pick his brain about different things, in the off season, try and reach out. Hey, we're thinking about this idea. Have you ever done anything like it? Um, between him and Coach Lou, like those guys have, when I was playing, I tried to take a lot of things that worked for me. Okay, like this applied to me, and be able to instill it in my guys, and my belief system, my core beliefs, and who I believe that you should be not only as a coach but as a person. um but I think a big part of coaching is being able to adapt. So
mm,
just because something works for me, just because Lou or Coach R told me something and it resonated with me, it might not resonate with everybody. So it's being
yeah.
able to adapt within those situations where I'm still wrapped around this belief, but I might not be able to phrase it in the exact way that it's said in my head. I'm still gonna, preach, the daily disciplines that I talk about, but I might have to say it in a different way and be able to adapt to these kids that I'm coaching now.
I love it. Last question. I think Anji could agree. We could do this for hours. Really enjoy this, man. We've got our time constraints, but um, uh, different offensive coordinators that we've had the chance to interview at San Diego State have taken kind of different approach to like throwing mechanics and things of that nature, and their roles, the position coach in how to lead that.
Mhm.
Where do you come down on, is it that these guys work with their own coach during the off season? They do all their throwing mechanics. We got X amount of times. I need the ball to be delivered here at a certain time, and they just got to kind of figure out the mechanics of it. Or do you, if that's where the kid needs, you go and grab those mechanics and try to, coach them up to make the passes that are needed?
Yeah. To answer your first question, yeah, I understand that. Like, probably 99% of high school kids in America right now that are quarterbacks have some type of quarterback coach. That's
Yeah.
just what it is right now. So I understand that they have some level of training, right? Um, I also believe that if a kid can't make certain throws, right, and we bring them in, that's our fault as recruiters, right?
Hmm.
We saw the tape, we saw the kid throw live, whatever the case may be. If he can't do it, that's our fault. We recruited him. Now, when they do get here, now it's my job to take the fundamentals that they learned, right? And then now they have to learn our footwork, right? They have to learn how we call, what I call a three-step drop might be different than what your, quote unquote quarterback guru calls a three-step drop. Well, we have a bunch of different terminology within our footworks, right? There's certain plays where I can give them help and hints on their footwork, based off of, where their first read is and all that. But like, I understand that in today's world, college quarterbacks are going to come in, with some kind of footwork mechanics that they've been working on. Some of these kids have had a private quarterback coach since they were 10 years old,
Right.
these guys have been doing this for a long time. So I'm not here to reinvent the wheel, but I do need to make it fit within our offense. Like that is the one thing that you can't be so stuck in your ways. One thing that like nobody has said this at all that I've dealt with has ever said this, but like one thing that I wouldn't let fly would be, well, my quarterback coach told me to do it this way.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
okay, that's great. I get that, but like you got to make it fit in our offense. Like our offense is a proven, like proven track record of success with guys that have done it our way. Like you can't just be so stuck in what you believe or what you've learned in the past that you're not willing to come in here and learn exactly what we're teaching.
Coach Johnson, thank you so much for the time. I know it's a busy spring practice schedule right now, and we appreciate you taking some time and giving us a glimpse into your coaching world.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys having me again. Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
You too. Thanks, guys.
Welcome back, guys. I want to introduce Johnny Olivieri again to the podcast. What's going on, Johnny?
Not much, man. Exciting stuff going on.
Yeah, the school had spring break last week, so there was no practice, there was nothing. The guys had a chance to kind of, some of them probably left San Diego, went back to their homes or went on vacation or whatever, and now they're back for the last, 2 weeks of spring camp.
Right.
This episode, we interviewed Matt Johnson. You wrote an article about Johnson earlier this week or over the weekend. What were your thoughts as you were listening to the interview and as you were researching for the article about, kind of where he's at here in this new role?
Yeah, no, it was really cool. It was a blast kind of researching him, his career as a player under Coach Lewis, and then sort of his progression as a coach to where he is now. Because usually when I've done a few of these and, you're just looking at the coaching history. So this was a cool one because now, he's with Coach Lewis. So it was cool to learn about how well he did in this offense that now these San Diego fans are going to be seeing at Snapdragon Stadium. And then mostly he seems like a down-to-earth guy. I was at the practice just the other day. He comes out onto the field and Louis Brown and the receivers were warming up. And I don't know if you're familiar with the sketch, like "What's up, brother" thing that everybody's doing.
Yeah.
The streamer that's going. So he does that to Louis Brown as he runs out there. So kind of seeing that after doing the article where he mentions multiple times how he's, what some people consider a player's coach. So you definitely see that even out on the practice field with how he interacts with those guys. But yeah, Lewis likes him. Obviously, he's followed him, sort of hitched his wagon to him as an example that he used. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, we asked him this question, but it's really a fascinating thing. Like he left an offensive coordinator job to come be a quarterback's coach.
Right.
Now, San Diego State does have a higher standing than Kent State, and I'm sure the dollars were not necessarily a step back in that sense. You see offensive coordinators or position coaches go and take less jobs at Power 5. So that does happen, but I think that shows how much he values Coach Lewis and the impact Coach Lewis has on him. I like the one thing he said is, my job is to get you to a place you can't get to on your own. And that's a recurring theme we've heard from all the coaches we've been talking to. Darian Hagan mentioned it. I know at least one other coach mentioned it. And that's definitely a mantra, I think, of this coaching staff, that they're here to help take the players to the next level, that whether either their prior coaching staffs didn't, either at San Diego State or at a different school, or if they're freshmen coming in and they're trying to learn how to do that. You also, the relationship part is fascinating because, right now, Coach Hoke used to always say, we have to recruit our own guys now, right? Like make them not want to leave because of NIL and transfer portal. And he kind of took it to a different way. He's like, I can be told what I want to hear for $100,000, but that's not necessarily the best thing for the player. And he's not that kind of guy. And I think some players may not like that and may leave, but I think some players will appreciate that. And that's just the kind of guy he is. And that's the uncommon Matt Johnson, as your title of your article said.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Another thing I was thinking of about when it comes to him coaching these quarterbacks, and he's been in the same shoes or same cleats as them previously. And it kind of reminds me of, when you're working for somebody and you see your boss, even though they're in charge of everybody, but if you see them cleaning the bathroom or doing the dirty work or things like that, then you're more willing to do that for them. So, I expect these players to sort of push themselves a little harder for a guy like that who's been in the same situation and been in not only the same situation as far as he was a quarterback and they were a quarterback, but same offense with Coach Lewis. So he knows exactly what Lewis is going to expect of them. So he knows how to push those guys.
Yeah, so under Coach Hoke, he typically had his offensive coordinator be the quarterback's coach. Jeff Hecklinski was that person. Lindley was last year. Other than that one half season where Lindley came over mid-season and Jeff Horton took over, that kind of played out all the other years. And I think because these guys are so young this year, the four guys, that it's helpful to have one guy who's solely focused on the quarterbacks and not necessarily on the rest of the offense or the entire offense. As you were at practice, did you notice anything about the four quarterbacks? Are they still kind of in the same rotation of who's taking first, second, third? Any difference there?
No difference in as far as the depth chart of it. One interesting thing to note is Crum was out there. He got out there about 20 minutes before the other quarterbacks warming up, throwing around. But yeah, as far as depth chart, no changes there on offense.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm really curious whether they'll have a starter named after spring camp, or they will use that in the depth chart, the three-way ties or whatever. But it'll be fascinating to see how that impacts what happens in the transfer portal. This transfer portal opens on the 15th before spring camps even ended. So we could potentially see guys entering the transfer portal before spring game on next Saturday, because you always want to be in the portal as fast as you can and to not get other teams that find other people instead of you, right? So it'll be fascinating to see if any of San Diego State players enter the portal, and not just quarterbacks, all of them. It opens on the 15th versus waiting until the 20th or the 21st, because they'll probably know where they stand by then.
Yeah, that's true. I was about to say that may be our only indicator, because Coach Lewis in the press conferences, he's kept it pretty tight whenever us or anybody asks, like, hey, how are the quarterbacks? He's kept it pretty sealed as far as where they all rank. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. So the spring game is on April 20th, 1:00 Snapdragon Stadium. What are you most excited about seeing in the spring game?
Yeah, I'm just the tempo of the offense is kind of what I'm excited to see. We've seen it in practice, how quick that they are, but it'll be interesting because I'm certain this will be more of a game setting type how they're going to be running things. So it'll be interesting to see the speed and the flow of the offense. The receivers are interesting. I had asked Lewis about that group after his last practice, and he said there were some things they were still trying to tighten up and that they got to fix, because it's an interesting group of guys. They have some returners, they have Shaw returning, but they also had some talent come in through the transfer portal. So I'm interested to see that. Also Jude Wolf, I'm interested to see kind of how they use him in this offense. So there's a lot to be excited about.
Yeah, Jude Wolf is an interesting guy because he didn't have very many catches in 4 years at USC.
Yeah.
But Sean Lewis, was talking about him as the most complete tight end in the room and the guy that is probably number one on the depth chart and going to do a bunch of stuff. And so he's seeing something that we didn't see him playing at USC. That's interesting. But you mentioned something, the tempo of the offense, and it kind of reminded me of something else Matt Johnson said about how they have to do most of their coaching in the film room
Yeah.
because their tempo and their plays are so quick in practice that they don't have time to stop and say, "Oh, hey, Danny or AJ, you did this, you should have done this,"
Yeah.
because they don't want to slow the flow down. And I think that's fascinating. And it's almost like game reps, right? Like
Yeah.
you can't stop a play in the middle of a drive and let your quarterback's coach come and give you advice or anything like that. So it's a good primer for these guys for when they get in a real game setting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been interesting to watch at practice. Coach Lewis, man, he does not run out of energy. He's running with the offense, like you're mentioning, how many reps that they get in. It's a lot because they're going up and down the field. Lewis is pretty much running as the first team's going, and then they already have the second team ready. He's running down there. So it's definitely interesting to watch. So that's why that's one of the more exciting things.
Has little Coach Lewis made an appearance since the first practice?
I haven't seen him actually since that first one when he was rocking that number 1 jersey. And yeah, I haven't seen him, but he kept up with his dad on that first day, and his dad was everywhere on that field. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't been able to get out there since that first practice. Unfortunately, that was the only fully open practice up until now. Any other parting shots before we close this out?
Yeah, just excited that the Coach Johnson is a coach I'm really excited about to see how, especially with his group of quarterbacks, where in the past years we've kind of known who the guy is heading into it. So it's really fascinating to kind of see, and it'll be interesting to see their development. And I'm hoping on, the 20th for the spring game to kind of see who sort of broke away. If at that point, like we mentioned, we even get to see anything there. But yeah.
Do you have a prediction on who's going to be the starting quarterback?
It's tough. I mean, if I had to make a prediction, my safest, I would say AJ.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough. Lewis is a tough coach to read whenever we've asked him about those quarterbacks. He hasn't given much. So, but yeah, I would say my safe bet, if I had to pick one, I would say AJ. Yeah.
I tend to lean the same way because you kind of go back to there's a reason why he got first team reps to start spring camp. Right. And unless he has completely ruined that and other guys have stepped up, then he's probably going to stay in that role. Yeah. But I also think that they're probably the competition, even if they name one guy as first team, I don't think they're going to necessarily come out and say, he's our guy, he's going to be our starter in week 1. I think they're going to say it's still going to keep playing out over summer and then fall camp as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely.
But it's definitely something for fans as they come to spring game to watch for. All 4, I'm sure, are going to get plenty of reps and plenty of opportunities to play that Aztec fast. Our first look at it in a scrimmage format, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be cool. I'm sure a lot of fans will be eager to get out to Snapdragon and see this new offense.
Yeah, it's a 1:00 game, so we'll see how the weather holds up. It could be sunny, could be a warm afternoon. So, but obviously, I think people will still be excited to get to come out and watch it and so forth. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for us. Hopefully, you enjoyed the interview with Coach Johnson. Thanks, Johnny, for that article and for adding your insight. Yeah, a lot more to come. We've got some more interviews and articles that'll be coming out from our coaches series. As always, we appreciate you guys listening, liking, sharing, following, subscribing, and we'll talk to you guys next time. You are listening to the SDSU podcast presented by the East Village Times with your hosts Andre Hagberdian and Paul Garrison.